Hello everybody, hope you are all doing well. It is I, Ole Gamer Joe, as always, here with another Media Moogle review for you. Today we are taking a look at some fun arcade action with the Shmup Collection, which has just recently been released on the Nintendo Switch as of May 14th, 2020. The three games featured were developed by Storybird and Astro Port, and the game was published by Pixel Heart. I suppose if you want to get technical, there are 5 games in this collection because Armed 7 and Satazius include the original versions, but you'll probably want to play the Armed 7DX and Satazius Next versions of these games because they're basically just the same game with upgraded graphics for the Nintendo Switch. So then, let's jump right into it and start with Satazius Next. Satazius had originally appeared on Steam on December 16th of 2011. I tried both the original and the enhanced version for purpose of this review, and I must say that the enhanced version does make some nice refinements. The color palette is definitely brighter and more colorful, and the soundtrack definitely has more of a dance beat techno vibe to it that keeps you driving forward at a more rapid pace. I preferred it myself. The original soundtrack, not my favorite, sounded kinda like it had too much bad synthy bass going on or something. There's quite a few different weapons in Satazius Next, 13 in fact. You of course have your primary, you also will have a secondary weapon to choose from in this game, and then you have your big explosive special attack. I quite enjoyed the fact that you could switch between all of these different weapons and pick and choose which ones you like and you don't like. While I would run into certain weapons that I didn't care for, like the laser, I didn't have to use them if I didn't want to. It won't take you long to figure out that Satazius Next is a very difficult game. Thankfully, you can choose between a few difficulties, and playing on easy certainly helps with this, but there's no unlimited credit spanning in these games. So while the easy setting is pretty manageable, and you'll find this across all of the games in this collection, you are going to need some skill in order to complete these titles. For me personally, Satazius Next was challenging, and it opens up with a very difficult chase scene that almost reminded me of Battletoads or something. I was like, what the heck is going on here? This is way too difficult for a first level, but eventually things do kind of even out. You get used to the controls and the feel of the game. I didn't really notice any input lag, and the game felt smooth. Overall, a thumping soundtrack, nice graphics with big explosions, and tight mechanics made Satazius Next one of my favorites in this collection. On then to my least favorite game in the collection, Armed 7DX. There's also Armed 7 the original here. I didn't have any problems playing this game on easy, but on the normal difficulty setting, I would say this was probably the most difficult title for me to play. There are some pretty cool mech designs in this game, and the levels look decent, but on the whole, it felt a little uninspired next to the other games in this collection. I have to say too, and this kind of goes for all of the games in this collection, that the sound mix just feels off. Either the sound effects were too loud in this game and you couldn't hear the music, or vice versa. Everything's just a little bit messy in terms of audio. The mix is pretty spotty, and there's no way to adjust this in the options, so you're kind of stuck with it. There are 4 difficulty options in this one, all the way up to insane, which, well, hardcore shoot-'em-up fans will appreciate because it is pretty insane. Pretty cool though, and kind of similar to Satazius, is the fact that you can have a customizable loadout in this one too. It was fun to mess around once again with different combinations, and even though I wasn't a big fan of the aiming and the feel of this game, it was still a pretty decent romp that doesn't take too long throughout its 7 levels. And then last but certainly not least is Wolf Flame, the game with perhaps the most explosions in this collection. This one's actually pretty good fun. It's a vertical shooter similar to Raiden or Twin Cobra. You have some satellites that will orbit around your ship in this game. It's probably the coolest aspect. They deal out a ton of damage and they're fun to watch and use. High adrenaline game here with really sound mechanics, and also the tape mode is available for you folks out there that I know appreciate that. Plenty of carnage in this one, plenty of explosions like I mentioned, definitely a quicker pace than the other games in this collection. I would say Satazius being the slowest of the 3. And one thing all 3 games have in common is plenty of big bosses to take down, the bullet sponges that you would expect in a shoot-'em-up game. This collection itself is a little bit of an odd duck though, I must say, just based on the fact that it's not really well put together presentation-wise. We were given individual codes for each of these games. Yes, you can purchase them as individual titles if you wish. One oddity in this collection though is the inability to switch between the versions that you're playing. For example, if you want to play Armed 7DX but you had previously booted Armed 7 Original, from what I could tell there was no intuitive way to go ahead and switch between them without going all the way back to the Nintendo Switch menu, exiting the game, and then rebooting it. Kinda strange. Having the individual downloads of these titles for this review makes it a little bit tough for me to say whether or not the Shmup Collection loader is better or not because, well, I wouldn't know, but none of these titles really featured any sort of bells and whistles, extras, no historical context for them. That's a little bit disappointing. I was also kind of let down by the fact that each of these games is single player only. I love to do co-op in my shoot 'em up games, and unfortunately that won't be an option here. This is going to be a solo venture for you folks. That said, the version updates that they've done to Satazius and Armed 7 are really great. I love all of the graphical tweaks that they've made to the originals, and even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Armed 7 DX, Satazius Next and Wolfflame are truly great shoot 'em up games that are worth your time. This collection is pretty fairly priced at $14.99. You can't really argue with that. There's also going to be a physical release of this collection. It's going to be one of the last Wii U releases as well. Fans of physical media won't have to wait long with those launching in June. Overall, I think this collection is well worth your money. It's not very much of an investment. These are challenging games that will keep players busy for a while, and hardcore shoot 'em up fans will definitely appreciate that extra challenge, including the insane modes. If you were hoping for a lot of bells and whistles and extras, you're going to be a little bit disappointed, but at the end of the day, you can't take away from the fact that these are fun arcade action shooters that will definitely be worth your time. For more on Shmup Collection and all of our other content, head on over to MediaMoogle.net, where we have some wonderful podcasts for you to check out, like I Dream of Indie. And if you have enjoyed our video coverage today, please do consider hitting the subscribe button below. If you really like us, you can head on over to patreon.com/MediaMoogle, where we have 3 wonderful tiers of content to choose from, or feel free to leave a donation in the description box below. However you end up supporting Media Moogle, thank you so much for doing so.